Thanks to the support as a channel member, Grant Charman. Well, we're very quickly running out of fullbacks, so I'm having to experiment with all manner of three at the back formations, which doesn't sit well with me at all. We've also been knocked out of the FA Cup by Barrow. The squad are getting a little bit grumpy. We've got players who want to leave, and we're not winning every game in the league anymore. It's suddenly getting just a smidge. It's not hard yet. It is getting harder, though, and we're still only in League Two. And welcome to part 9 of Saving Man City. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we've got a couple of games for you in League Two. We're away against Port Vale and Hartlepool. We'll do Aston Villa under-21s in the Mickey Mouse Cup off camera because nobody cares about that tournament. Since you were last with me, we have played a lot of football matches, but unlike what we've come to expect in this series to this point, it's not just been a sea of green circles. In fact, November has been the most challenging month of the save so far. We've been knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Middlesbrough. You can see that was the only time we've started with our three at the back system, or one of them. We have several. And it didn't really work against Middlesbrough. But we've also been knocked out of the FA Cup by Barrow, who it took 2 matches and penalties for us to get knocked out. But Barrow, who are down, I mean, they are in League Two, but they've still knocked us out. And we wouldn't expect to be knocked out by Barrow. We've also dropped some points in the league. A draw at home against Mansfield most recently. We also drew against Doncaster as well. So we are still comfortably top of the league. We're 6 points clear of a game in hand. Much better goal difference. You would expect all that, but we are just showing the ever so slightest signs of a little bit of a wobble. The club atmosphere actually dropped down to average at one point when we got knocked out of the FA Cup. They were not happy at all. Tommy Doyle, who we were so excited when he agreed to stay with us in the summer, immediately picked up an injury, and he's going to be unavailable for a while. Sarmiento is double frustrating because we've played him a little bit and he's good, but we can't let him get to a 10th league game for us or it'll cost us £1 million. And we've had various injuries in various fullback positions. We are actually going to be able to play a back four today, but you can see we've had this system that we've used a few times. We've also got a variant of it where we kind of stick a guy in there and do kind of a diamond with a back three. But we're experimenting with back threes that don't involve any kind of wing back. The other one that we've got that we've used a couple of times, because we've got so many centre backs, is we do this, but we then invert the wing backs on both sides to still try and get them into that area. And we've kind of got this as a variant that we use as well. These are all... What's that screen? What's that screen? Where have I ended up? I don't like the look of this data hub at all. These are all things that we kind of turn to in the middle of the match because most of our substitutions are centre-backs, or most of our substitutes are centre-backs or central midfielders, so we kind of have to load those areas up. We're struggling with players out wide, both defensively and in attack. But, yeah, there's much experimentation going on around these parts at the moment, and I've done something that's meant... Oh, why does it keep going back to that data hub? What am I clicking to make that happen? There's a button somewhere that I'm clicking that I don't usually click. Have I managed to put everyone back in the right place now we're back in this system? I think I have. How many games has Sarmiento played? This is number 6. He's allowed to get to 9. He also loses his work permit once we get to January anyway. So I don't think we can actually play him any more times than we already have anyway. We've got him for 3 more matches in December. He is very good. It's going to be a shame that we're not going to be able to keep him. We're also in a situation where Oscar Bob loses his work permit in January as well. We've just offered him another new contract, but every time we offer them, they get declined for work permits as well. So we could potentially be in a situation where we've only got 2 fullbacks that we can use, and both of our current starting wingers might be about to lose their work permits. So we're potentially going to be going to something very, very narrow very, very soon. Or I guess we need to be training players to play in other positions, maybe playing some of the even younger players who aren't necessarily as good as the 5 or 6 real top quality centre-backs that we've got in the squad. But unless we can get them playing everywhere, I mean, we've got Shea Charles playing at the base of the midfield for most of this season because of the injury to Tommy Doyle. Maybe we'll just have to do more things like that, where we take these centre-backs and they have to learn to play fullback. They're going to have to learn to play left wing. It'll be fine. Let's not worry about it. What I'm more concerned with today is getting back to winning ways after it was a really poor performance against Mansfield. That's why I've come back for this match. I had planned on rolling all the way through to the January transfer window, but we've had a couple of those little stumbles on our route towards promotion, and I figured this was an interesting time to come back and just see if the stumble continues or how we handle it, how we recover from it, and just kind of, I mean, I'll level with you. I think of all the games we played this season, there's a pretty good chance this might be our first league defeat. So I wanted you to be here to watch it happen if it does happen, so we can figure out how to get around it. Having said all that, Liam Delap has... See that? When that happens, that tells me that our form is dropping off a little bit, because Liam Delap doesn't usually miss. That was on a plate for him from Sarmiento, and he's kind of scuffed it. It's hit the base of the post and been scrambled clear. It remains 0-0 as we head toward half-time. I mean, we're going to score here. There's no missing from this one. Fiorini with the free kick from the edge of the area. And, okay, that is also saved. We've all played enough Football Manager over the years, I'm sure, that you feel it. There's not even a way to put it into words why I've chosen this match to bring you back for, other than the fact that I just feel it. Through experience of playing enough Football Manager over the years, I feel like things are turning, even though we're 6 points clear of a game in hand, even though we're still unbeaten. It just felt like the last couple of matches, things were not working the way they've worked previously. And I think we've seen more evidence of that in this match. We might scrape to a draw again, but it is a little bit alarming, especially as we are only a month away from the January transfer window opening, which, as we know from our plan at the start of the season, January transfer window, we need to sell 30, 40, 50 million pounds worth of players. Tommy Doyle will almost certainly be leaving then if he's fit, if we can get 15, 20 million for him. And there might be others leaving too. I don't know that we've got enough players left who we can fetch that kind of money for. So we might have the double problem of having to sell the likes of Doyle and maybe some of the others who are pushing a little bit higher in value. But then once we get to April, May time, we're going to be well overdrawn, and the looming danger of administration starts to rear its ugly head. And then we're thinking in terms of, well, are we going to get a points deduction this season? If so, will we be 10 points clear? Will it stop us getting promoted? Or is it potentially even worse that we might get a points deduction that rolls over into next season, making it that bit harder? Because remember, the goal is the plan. We have a very detailed plan. It is back-to-back promotions all the way through to the Premier League and then pay back the debt that way. It's a hard plan to pull off when we're having to sell our best players every transfer window, and we are going to have to do that again this upcoming window. I've had a couple of people in the comments saying things like, Kev, you've got 40 or 50 million in the bank. Why are you talking about needing to sell players? So I will keep reminding you. And there are a lot of people in the comments section as well who do a good job of reminding people of this as well. But I'll remind you again. I think it's £23 million a month in debt repayments that we have to pay. So if we're sat here at the start of December with 30 million in the bank, know that on the 1st of January, there's going to be 5 or 6 million in the bank. By the end of January, we're 20 million overdrawn if we don't sell any players. And that keeps accumulating as the season goes on, to the point where if we don't sell players in January, especially because we've ballsed up the FA Cup run, which is a potential money spinner, it could be a problem. What's less of a problem is that Liam Delap has finally found the target in this game. He has taken his time. We are performing well below XG for the third time in recent memory, but thankfully we have gone ahead in the match, and hopefully from there we should be relatively comfortable. We'll just make a couple of substitutions. I don't think we're going to have to switch to one of our weird hybrid formations today, because we seem to be staying reasonably fit. When we were playing matches twice a week, that's when we were messing around with so many of these three at the back systems. Although now, if we have to start losing a few players who are getting tired, see there, we haven't got another defensive midfielder, so we're going to have to do that. Fiorini's going to come off for Micah Hamilton. And see, we're just going to jump to there. I don't like the idea of playing a flat back five, so I much prefer this, on attack, which has worked quite well. We don't actually have it saved, but we've used it a few times, where we've got a back five, but 4 of them are on an attacking instruction. So what happens, and we've only got 10 minutes, so you might not see it in full flow, but the wide centre-backs end up here, and the inverted wing-backs end up in here, and it ends up with just, just one centre-back. And it's beautiful, and it is much more attacking than it looks. Anyone who's been watching for a long time knows how much I despise a back five, but this is the most Kev back five anyone has ever done. A back five. Well, I mean, we could potentially have gone all 5 on an attacking instruction. I'm not quite brave enough to try a libero in League 2, but we have managed to pull a narrow victory off. I mean, if you look at those recent results, we are not steamrolling over teams anymore. This isn't 7-0s and 4-0s and 3-0s. This is a 1-0, a 1-1, a 1-0, a 2-2. We are. It's potentially, like I say, potentially turning. Although back to winning ways. Fingers crossed. Let's go beat Villa off camera, and then we'll be back for Hartlepool. And one of the it might be the final time you ever see Oscar Bob in a Manchester City shirt, unless we can tie him down. I mean, it's not about tying him down to a new contract. He wants to sign one. What we've got to do is convince the Department of Work and Pensions to give him a work permit, which, if anyone has a contact number for them, get in touch. We really like Oscar Bob and we want him to stick around. I really think we're going to have to come to terms with the fact that we are going to be losing Oscar Bob. He's still going to be under contract for 3 more years, but he is not going to get a work permit. He's been declined again. We've put in an appeal. I suspect in the January transfer window, we're either going to be selling or loaning him out because we just are not going to be able to keep him around. And he has been a key performer for us this year. 14 goal contributions in 12 appearances in the league, a 7.42. He is going to be very sorely missed on that right-hand side, especially with Ben Knight currently being out injured. We are getting very, very low on players who can play out on that side. So that's going to be a fun one for the next episode. We did make our way past Aston Villa. Again, not at all convincing. And now we play Hartlepool. And hopefully, I mean, at this point, just keep getting the points. We don't need to be convincing. We just need the points. Points, very important for us at the moment. Hamilton is going to play on the left this time as we continue to be sparing with how we use Sarmiento. He's got 3 games left, I think. 3 games left that he can play. And we've got 6 league games between now and the end of the month. So we're not going to use him more than 3 times in that run. But otherwise, I think this is the same team that played in that previous match that you saw. It's another away game. We seem to be playing away a lot at the moment. And I don't think that's helping. While we're struggling to refine form, it'd be quite nice just to have a home game in front of our own fans and just rattle 3 or 4 goals past somebody and get back to our former glories. And I know it's a weird thing to say when we're well clear at the top of the table, but I'm sure we can all feel it. Today might be the day. Today it'll go one of 2 ways. Either it all goes wrong or we sort ourselves out and get back to winning ways and we can worry about it all going wrong tomorrow. I mean, I guess the one positive about Oscar Bob, and it is difficult finding a positive when you're losing one of your best players, probably for very little, is that at least we might be able to get a little bit more money for him now than we would have done if we'd have sold him in the summer. Back when we were accepting offers for him in the summer, we were accepting offers in the sort of £500,000 range, but because it was other English clubs, he wasn't getting work permits with them either. Whereas now his value is considered in the 2.5 million or so range, which obviously he can't go anywhere in England, but could go anywhere in the EU. So hopefully once we get to the January transfer window, there'll be a club in another country who decides to put their hands in their pockets and sling some money our way for Oscar Bob. Like I say, he'll be sorely missed, but there's nothing we can do about it. He says, hold on, one thing I haven't checked, when can he become English? And right, 203 days left. So by the time he loses his work permit, he'll be 170 days left from being able to get English nationality. How does this work? Let me know down in the comments section. Are we potentially just going to be losing him for the second half of this season, but then he can get an English passport and play for us again next year? Is that how it works? Or does it have to be time spent in the country with an actual work permit? Because, I mean, separating this from Football Manager for a minute, in reality, if he lost his work permit, he can't carry on living in Manchester and training with us. that's still working. The work permit isn't just for him to play. He has to go, I think he's Norwegian. He has to go back to Norway. But in Football Manager land, does he actually go back to Norway? Or is he just with us and unable to play? And then once he's been here, those extra 170 or so days, so an extra 3 or 4 months, will he then be able to get a British passport and be brought back into the fold next year? Because I think if that's how it has to work, although it's not ideal, I think we probably can get promoted this year without him. And it'd just be like him having a 3 or 4 month injury. And if we get him back for next year, that'd be awesome. We could very much, I would like that to happen, please. Once again, though, a very challenging first half. 0-0. We've been much the better team. Liam Delap just doesn't seem like he fancies it anymore. I think he's ready to just head off to Brentford and sit on their bench for the rest of his career, because he's just, I know he scored the winner in the last game, but he just doesn't seem like he's up for it. He's on a 6.2 today. A player like him playing against a team like Hartlepool should be loving the opportunity to just score a load of goals. Right, we've got a wing back who needs to come off, which means we get this in action. Right, so we put him there. Wilson Esbrand is going to have to come off as well. Finley Burns is also tired. I mean, we've got so many centre-backs, so we're going to do that. And then he will come off, and we don't have a defensive midfielder on the bench, so we'll do this version. We have so many different versions of these tactics that we use, depending on who we've got available to come on, so we can bring Robertson on. So then we kind of go to a diamond with wingers and a back three with wide centre-backs, and then Shea Charles dropping back to offer some cover. It has worked. I mean, these strange little weird hybrid tactics do seem to actually be working. It's like nothing I've ever done in Football Manager before, but it might allow us that little bit of extra attacking oomph to get the break from. I mean, what a ridiculous looking system it is. But we're so much better than Hartlepool. It just allows us to overload them a little bit more going forward. Not that it's working today. Delap's going to come off for Dixon. And we're also going to take off Taylor. And we're going to bring on, we're not going to waste Sarmiento. We're going to bring on Obwavwudu. And we're going to go and do this, which again is another variant that we've used multiple times, where we go with the front four. And we don't need 4 defenders. We're Manchester City playing in League Two. We don't need 4 defenders. Just throw more and more attackers on. We want to try and get a breakthrough. There is the youngster, 16-year-old Obwavwudu, who has just rattled the crossbar. He has already got his first league goal for us, but it doesn't look like he's adding to his tally today. Look at we're on an XG of over 2, and we are struggling to grab a goal. James Trafford there, clutching the ball out of the sky. We've got 5 minutes left to try and find a breakthrough. It's going to be Trafford playing it out to Katongo, playing as the wide centre-back on this right-hand side, and then Bob playing it over the top to Obwavwudu, and he plays it back across, and there's Micah Hamilton, and there is a goal. Oh, goodness me. It seems all the local school children gathered outside my office window enjoyed celebrating that one as well. I don't know if all the noise came through on the microphone, but we've just paused for a moment to let them disperse, and we can enjoy this goal from the other angle. Obwavwudu plays it across to Micah Hamilton, and I mean, just the advantage of having so many players thrown forward. Like I say, we've just completely overwhelmed the Hartlepool back four. I think what you've just seen there, boys and girls, is Kev doing tactics. Here's the problem with this system, though. The wide centre-back was way out wide. I shouldn't have started blowing my own trumpet as soon as I did, because our wide centre-backs over here, we were left with basically one centre-back, and they've just exploited the space. I mean, I'm not proud of what I've just seen here. Katongo, look at the gap there. It's such a big gap. And there's no way for Mbete to get across. And yeah, we've seen the positives and the negatives of these super attacking systems in the space of 3 minutes at the end of that match. And it is more dropped points and another game where we have not looked like Manchester City playing in League Two. Hopefully the form will come back. I mean, we are still 10 points clear at the top of the league, so I'm not worried yet. But I am very aware that the January transfer window is on the horizon, and that could mean, that will mean key players leaving. Tommy Doyle, hopefully Sarmiento, Hamilton, Finley Burns. We've just called this guy up from the youth team, Thomas Galvez. So he might leave. He might start playing. Who knows? And Bete. I mean, we could certainly afford to lose 2 or 3 centre-backs, but there's a lot of players we need to move on because the finances, there you go. We've ducked below zero again for the first time this season, 700,000 in the red, and the projection by the end of the season to be at minus 112 million. Can we go that far overdrawn without going into administration? I'm not so sure. I guess we'll find out soon enough. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.